Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, really appreciate it. This week, diving back into the world of wrestling, talking with Izzy Moreno. Now, I think that you're going to gain a lot from this conversation, even if you know nothing about wrestling. Even if you say, Jackson, a few weeks ago, we listened to another wrestler. I didn't know about wrestling. I didn't care to know that much. Found it interesting, but I don't know if I want to listen to it. Yet another wrestler. I think this one is going to be something that sparks your interest for a different reason, and that is Izzy's backstory. One, Izzy had made her debut in wrestling like 6 months ago, and she's only 16 years old. So she's fresh in this world, and I kind of struggle to say that because her backstory has taken her in the wrestling world all the way from 3 or 4 years old. So she started out, and I didn't know about this when I was first researching who to speak with. I reached out to several wrestlers. A few of them responded. Izzy was one of them, and I had no idea her backstory, and it's a pretty cool one. It is that she, at a young age, became a super fan of a professional wrestler that's on TV. Wrestler's name is Bayley. She became a super fan, so kind of before all the matches, she would, high five or hug Bayley, and it was on TV and all that kind of stuff. She, wore this colorful outfit, and it was just kind of cute to see a little kid, be so into wrestling, and it was kind of part of the storyline of Bayley's character in the ring. So that went on for a while. Fast forward to a little bit later, kind of that storyline was ending, and Izzy wanted to continue being in the world of wrestling. She started a wrestling show that was on the internet and a few other places. She started managing some other wrestlers, which I find in this conversation it's kind of funny to hear all the things that she's done, just because she talks about managing wrestlers, and then she said she did that when she was 10 years old, and she talks about having this wrestling show and having all these famous wrestlers on, and she was 12 years old at that point. So she's done so much in her young life. At 16, which is where we talked to her today, she's made that debut this past August. She's big into wrestling at this point. But it didn't come easy. She struggled with finding that acceptance. A lot of people saw her as, okay, you were a young kid that was a super fan, but leave the actual wrestling to somebody else. That's kind of the pushback she was getting. So it's so great to talk to her about just kind of overcoming that and saying, no, I want to be in this. I deserve to be in this. I've literally came at it from every angle imaginable, and it just makes sense to finally get into the ring. So this is a story about a wrestler, sure, but it's also a story about just a person who persevered, and a person who's doing what they love, and a young person who's just doing some really amazing things and has some really awesome things in store. So happy that she decided to join me. Happy that you're going to get to listen to Izzy today. Without further ado, here's Izzy Moreno. I'm here today with Izzy Moreno. Izzy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Most of the listeners can't see you, but you've got, I don't know, do you live in like a game, like an arcade, or what's going on there?
I do. This is where I sleep. No. So in my house, when we moved into my house, this house like 2 years ago. And so we got an extra bedroom at the house. So we were, at the time, like during COVID, we were huge Arcade 1-Up fans. So like my dad started to collect them, and then we found a room to put them in, and this is where they're all living.
I love it. And it's true to brand, because you've got Mortal Kombat, you got Street Fighter. I think we're going to talk a little bit about some hand-to-hand combat, if you will, but let's kind of get right into it. I'm going to be honest with you. Two things. One, you're going to find that I don't know a ton about wrestling. This is not a wrestling podcast. This is just a podcast to talk to people doing cool things. So when I was first looking at people to reach out to, I reached out to several different wrestlers. They're in different circuits, and I didn't know anything about you. And then when I started researching, you've got quite the story. So I talked to one other wrestler before, and I'd asked her, what got you interested in wrestling? And, it was a good story, but yours is from a long time ago. You actually kind of became a little bit famous as this super fan of a wrestler. Talk just a little bit about that before we get to the awesome stuff you're doing now.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I am a pro wrestler. I fell in love with the sport when I was 3, 4 years old, and I started to go to shows. When I was about 8, I feel like I was kind of put, I don't want to say I was put, but I kind of got involved with the public eye of pro wrestling, which was really awesome. And so I was known as the super fan to an NXT WWE wrestler, Bayley. So a lot of people saw me every week, front row, out in Bayley gear at NXT Takeover Respect. Sasha Banks came up to me and stole my headband, so that was pretty interesting. So yeah, a lot of people know me for that, but I like to just think of that as a little stepping stone into my career.
Absolutely, for sure. So when it comes to that, did it happen because you were always interested in this, and then they kind of saw you, or was it kind of part of the storyline? As much as you can answer that, I don't know how you got involved.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. It was very organic, and I don't think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people think it was I was some plan and I was a part of it. I was I kind of knew all about it, and I was kind of in on the whole plan. And I really was me and my parents, who just attended shows for a long time. And I saw Bayley for the first time. I was like, oh my God, this is my favorite wrestler. And so obviously with that came with the buying her t-shirts, dressing up like her, wearing the headbands, thing back in the day, doing my hair like her, because she had a side ponytail. So I would do my hair like a side ponytail. So literally I would sit front row, and Bayley would come up to me, and we had this sort of on-screen little friendship. And so she'd come up to me, give me her hug, and then she'd go in the ring and have her match. So people just saw that every week, for every NXT episode, and I was like, oh, who's this little girl? And then it kind of came out oh, this is Bayley, super fan. It was just a little girl who was a really big fan of her. And then I guess it just turned into me getting involved in some of the matches. So for example, NXT Takeover Respect, one of the most historic women's matches to date. Sasha Banks versus Bayley. Sasha was Bayley's biggest rivalry at the time, and I think she still is. And it was the first ever women's main event, first ever Iron Women's match. So it was a big deal. And so Sasha threw Bayley and came up to me and took my headband, and I literally cried my eyes out, and kind of it just went from there.
Yeah, let's kind of move past that, because you're doing so much now. But I want to kind of talk about, given that history, I watched your Instagram, I don't know, reel, when you talked about how you had a lot of doubters because how you started. So talk about kind of that journey to decide that you wanted to do this yourself.
Yeah, it was honestly a very long journey for me personally. I think for the longest time I had this itch to get inside the ring. And what happened was I did receive a lot of backlash about wanting to pursue this dream. And then I just I kind of put myself in a place where I was like, okay, these people don't want me here, so I'm just not going to go there. I'll just kind of stay on the outskirts. So basically I did everything besides become a professional wrestler inside the ring. So I started my own talk show. I was a manager at one point. I would ring the bell. I was a timekeeper. I did commentating. I literally did everything besides compete inside the ring. And that was just really hard just for my self-confidence, because I was this is all I want to do. And I know I'm really good. And I know if I did get in the ring, I'd be so happy. I'm so content with my life. It just sucked because all these people were no, you stay out of this business. You don't belong. We don't want you here. And I also got the whole oh, you're too young, you're gonna get hurt. While I saw other people literally my age be able to do pro wrestling, and nothing was said about them. So I think it was hard for me, and just looking back now, I'm really grateful for those times, because now I'm just kind of at a point where I don't really care what people think about me. This is my life. This is something that I've chosen to do. And I love it. This is I love my job, and I hate saying it's a job, but at the end of the day, that is what it is. This is how I'm employed, basically, as you could say. But yeah, I really do love my job. And so, yeah, when the time came that I was like, you know what, putting my foot down, I don't give you know what, I'm going to go do it. It was really awesome. And it happened about a year ago when I started to plan out my debut for pro wrestling. And I always like trained pro wrestling, like in the ring here and there. But I did a lot of like other sports. So I did jujitsu and kickboxing and weightlifting, but like pro wrestling, like I kind of like I said, like I wasn't really allowed to do it because of the pro wrestling industry. So I would just like try to like find my way to do it. And so when I started planning out my debut, it was a really awesome feeling. So I was like, we're doing it. And the response I got was actually really positive. Like you get your few hate comments here and there, but like overall, everybody was like, yes, finally. And I was like, I know, right? Period.
Yeah, I love that. And I want you now to kind of talk about, you mentioned, that you had a long pathway to it. You did everything in the wrestling world except for wrestle. And then you also, spent a lot of time making sure that your body was prepared once you did get in the ring. Talk a little bit about what training looks like when it comes to wrestling, and then also kind of those auxiliary things that you did, because on your Instagram I see that you've done, I think it's probably is jiu-jitsu, and it looks like you're doing some grappling, you're doing all kinds of stuff. So talk about that training.
Yeah, so like my train, I knew, excuse me, I knew when I was preparing for my debut, and I think like I like to compare this almost to the Olympics. I know it's like two very different sports, but I feel like they're in the same realm. But like people like prepare their whole lives for the Olympic sports, like they like every day, every summer, or whatever. And that's kind of the mentality that I adopted. So I've been working at this since I was like 10, and I'm 16 now. And it started pretty early, just doing like simple stuff. And then, as I got older, like I really understand like what to do to make myself stronger, how to feel good and everything. So as of right now, training is a little bit all over the place because my traveling schedule has increased a lot since I take bookings a lot and, pretty much every weekend. So like literally I had 3 straight weekends of just traveling. Like I didn't have a weekend at home until this past weekend. So it was very nice to stay at home. But anyways, yeah, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I do strength training, or I'm sorry, I do strength training or CrossFit, which has helped me a lot. And then I'll do my pro wrestling training, which does look a little different for some people because I don't train here. And I live in Orlando, Florida. My pro wrestling school is all the way in San Antonio, Texas. So what I do is I have these 2 gymnastic mats, and I'm downplaying them a lot, but they've gotten me to some places. I will say, love my mats. I have 2 gymnastic mats, so I'm able to do all my basic drills that I send to my coach. I basically do virtual coaching with my coach in San Antonio. I send to my drills, and I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this move. Like, what are your thoughts? And I like to practice my moves with my dad, actually. And in Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll either do CrossFit. Yeah, I'll do CrossFit like earlier in the afternoon, and then I'll go to jiu-jitsu/kickboxing in the evening. So yeah, like training, it does look a little hectic, and then just kind of balancing my schedule and figuring out like what I'm feeling that day, whether it's CrossFit or strength training. But yeah, but over the summer, my schedule was very different because I was in Texas preparing for my debut match, which I had August 12th, and I'd go to the pro wrestling school at 1 o'clock, and I wouldn't be there till like 10 p.m. And it was just hours and hours of just in the ring, and it was everything I wanted and more.
I love that. And I want to kind of ask you now, I wasn't going to, obviously address that you are relatively young when it comes to this, but you mentioned it. You mentioned that you're 16 years old. So my day job is in college advising. So the college advisor in me wants to know, as a 16-year-old, are you still in school? Are you homeschooling? What's going on there? Because obviously I want to make sure you're still doing that stuff.
Yeah, so I am still in school. I am graduating early, which is very exciting. And honestly, what's been so great is that when I was in middle school, I started to take high school credit classes online while I was taking my in-person middle school classes. So that's what got me so ahead. So I like knocked out like a bunch of like easy classes first, and then now I'm focusing on like more core classes like math and history and whatnot. Actually, I finished all my history electives, so like math and like English. So I am still in school. I do go to school in person. However, my only 2 classes in person are culinary and photography, 2 very easy classes with 2 teachers who absolutely adore me and I adore them. So they're cool with everything that I do. So like I actually didn't show up to school today because I really didn't have a reason to. But yeah, so my first two classes are in person, and then my dad's actually a teacher at my high school, so the rest of my day is spent in his classroom working on my virtual classes. And it's really awesome because I'll do my virtual classes really quick, like I'll get done like what I have to get done for the day. And then like I get to focus on pressing stuff. So whether it's like writing out promos, drawing out new gear designs, match study, even if I have to, I sometimes I film promos at school. That is a thing I do. But yeah, I am still in school and I do plan on going to college. I already know what I want to do. But yeah.
No, that's a good thing for sure. I want to ask you now, we talked about how, you had some doubters in the very beginning, but how did you decide once, you did find, I guess, circuits that were interested. How did you decide where to have that debut match? You train in San Antonio, Texas, so it doesn't sound like you were just trying to go to the closest place. But so how did you pick your circuit?
Yeah. So to be honest, so I trained at the hybrid school of wrestling, and honestly, that was the best school and fit for me. Because I went to a lot of schools here in Florida, and just like honestly, like none of them fit me and like my goals and my personal preference when it comes to training. So I went to the hybrid school of wrestling about 2021. So yeah, 2 years ago, a friend invited me. She's like, "Hey, come train with us for a week." I was on summer break, and I said, "Yeah, why not?" And that was kind of like around the time where I was like the whole idea of having my debut soon was lingering. So I was like, okay, I have to like start planning things out. So I went there for a week and I absolutely loved it. And then I went there again this past January for about 3 weeks. And then I was there for the entire summer, this past summer. And so I trained there. And so the whole thing about my debut and when I had my debut with Mission Pro Wrestling, which is a company out there in Texas, I was actually on a radio show on Sirius XM called Busted Open Radio. And the woman who owns it, Thunder Rosa, was one of the hosts that day with their main host, Dave LaGreca. And I was promoting, I think I was promoting something else, but I came on and I was like, I knew I wanted to throw out me having my debut, but I knew that I wanted to have my debut with Mission Pro Wrestling. And I was like, maybe if I say Mission Pro, Thunder Rosa will be like, yes, like let's do it. So I was, I think they asked me about my goals for 2023. And I was like, yeah, I'm gearing up for my debut. And before I can say anything about Mission Pro, Thunder Rosa goes, oh, does that mean you're going to debut at Mission Pro? And like from there, I was like, oh, yeah, this is meant to be. And so just after that, we kept in close contact and we planned it out. And then this past August 12th, 2023, I had my pro wrestling debut against Jasmine Allure, which was the best day of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to ask you now, when it comes to, we already talked about how you had kind of this persona, if you will, before you even became a wrestler. Building that character, building that persona is one of the biggest things. That's what I've learned anyway. So I feel like it's even more important for you, given, that you had kind of, people already knew you, but they knew you as a kid and not as, a wrestler. So how did you develop this persona that you have, and talk a little bit about, I guess, exactly what it is?
Yeah. So I think the whole building the character honestly was kind of like years in the making, because so after the whole stuff with me and Bayley ended, it like started to fizzle out. And I was personally okay with that. So I was like, okay, like it's time that like we start moving on. So that's when I started to manage wrestlers when I was like 10-ish, 10, 11. And so then that kind of stopped. And when I was about 12, yeah, when I was about 12, I started my own pro wrestling talk show where I interviewed wrestlers and I was talking about wrestling shows, and I got media for AE All Elite Wrestling. So that kind of like changed the whole perspective that, oh, she's still young, but she's not really a kid. But I was still kind of looked at as a kid, but not, it was different than before. And then I kind of like, I slowed down my pro wrestling show because it was going really good. And I was like, okay, time to make my debut soon. Let's kind of pump the brakes on it. And so that's basically what I did. So I kind of like stopped posting stuff. I was very mellow on social media. And then I'm trying to think what was like the first, I can't remember what was like the first video. I kept on throwing out teaser videos of like, oh, I'm going to announce something, like, oh, something's going to happen. And people were like, oh, what's going on? And so I remember this video. I was at the hybrid school of wrestling, and I posted a video of me fully in character as Izzy Moreno. Um, for those who don't know, she is a super fan. How ironic! But she's her biggest fan, and that's what she likes to say: "Be your biggest fan." She encourages everybody to believe in themselves and to be their biggest fans. But yeah, the video was basically me introducing myself as Izzy Moreno. And I was just like so geeked out that I was at the higher school of wrestling, and I was like in this room with like a bunch of pictures of people on the wall and like people who went to the school. And I was like, oh my God, like this person went here and this person too, and I'm here now. And from there, I just started to do more promos as Izzy Moreno, and then people started to catch on. Another great part about Izzy Moreno, the pro wrestler, is that she gives out friendship bracelets because she likes to make a lot of BFFs. So she has all her Izzy Moreno BFFs with her all the time. They always come out to support her. But yeah, I think it was really fun to form the character because honestly, I like to think of her as a different person. Like I'm still her, but I like to think like, oh, what would she do? What would she like? What would she dress like? Like, what would her mannerisms be? Like, it's a lot of fun to think of her as like a different person. And she's kind of like me, but turns up to like a 1000. So it's like, it's fun to like kind of see the difference. Cause like, I'm very like right now I'm very mellow, but like Izzy Moreno is like a whole party. But yeah, it was super fun coming up with the character and like, even from the logo, like this is my logo right here. Thinking about like, oh, what would the colors be? Like getting the crown, like I like everything about it was so perfect. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to form the character and to kind of just snap right into it. And also to be able to pretty much perform in the ring as Izzy Moreno, which that's literally what I have to do. But like being in character in the ring and like being really goofy, like the goofy side of Izzy Moreno is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's certainly unique. I mean I've only talked to a couple of the wrestlers, but when they talk about their personas, we're talking about, being this like scrappy, tough, scary person, and yours is friendship bracelets and that kind of stuff. Not to say you don't get in the ring and then do some awesome stuff, but I like that for sure. I want to kind of ask you again, kind of at your comfort level, how did you? Because wrestling, I mean, it is a sport, but it's also the last person I talked to about this had put a really good word, and I can't remember what it was. I think it's a performance sport, a performance art. So how did you develop that side of things, just to make sure anything you're doing in the ring, it's not like it's not like you're not going to get hurt sometimes because it is still a very physical thing. But how do you develop that side of things, the choreography of everything?
Honestly, it was a lot of practice. Because I honestly, like when I was really young, I was like, oh my God, how did they like make matches? Like, how did they know what to do? And like, I obviously, like, I knew it was like sort of predetermined. But I was like, how are they able to just like remember all of this? And I think I've had a lot of practice throughout the years. And so I'll go back to my show. On my internet show, like I would basically script out everything I was going to say. And I know it sounds a bit weird, but literally, like I would have like a full script of what I was going to say, what I was going to talk about, and then I would remember it, and it would be in my brain. And then, like when I had to film, like I'd be good to go. And so I think that like remembering all of that stuff really helped me with remembering what I have to do in a match. And I think honestly, once I started to like train a lot more inside the ring, I understood how to kind of articulate with performing and the whole choreography part of it, and being a good dance partner for the other person, basically. So I think it did take some time, but like honestly, like seeing where I am now, I'm like, you know what, I'm really happy where I am, and I think I'm going to keep on progressing because I this weekend I have my 10th match, and my most previous match was definitely my best one so far. So I just seeing my progression from my ninth match to match number one. It's really awesome. So it's a good feeling. So yeah, I think it's taken a lot of practice to kind of get the choreography part of it down.
Yeah, I love that. Being a good dance partner sounds like I like that phrasing for sure. And I want to ask you now, given that you spent so long wanting to get to the place that you're at, now that you're doing it, I mean, this seems like a pretty easy question. Definitely, I can see your passion behind it, but is it everything that you'd hoped it would be? I mean, I would hate for you to have gotten into it and you're like, you know what? I spent a lot of time and I don't even know if I like this stuff.
Oh man, it really is everything I want and more. I think it's such an amazing career slash job. There's so many layers to it, and I think that's really awesome. And I don't. Here's the thing. So a lot of people always ask me like, "Oh, do you ever get tired?" Like, I'm sure you're very tired, and I honestly, like, I truthfully, I really do get tired a lot, but I never get tired of it. And for me, that means everything because I'll never forget the feeling of literally sitting on the sideline for so many years and wishing I had the life that I have now and hoping that I would come soon and hoping that I'd be in the ring one day and hoping that I'd be able to perform in front of people. And now I'm actually doing it. And so the exhaustion, like it kind of just goes away after some time because you're like, no, I like legit love what I do. And so like it's so worth it. And it's not just like performing in the ring, it's all the little moments that surround it. So I do conventions. So there's wrestling conventions sometimes where I'll just do meet and greets for a couple hours. And the people that come up to me are like the nicest people ever and just to, like hear their stories and they share how much they love me and like and also it's always like the little kids that get me because that's kind of like my target audience. So I'm like whenever little kids come up to me, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, they like me. And then also, I have a lot of dads and daughter duos come up to me and I'm very close with both of my parents. And they've always been super supportive, but I've always been super close with my dad. And he's kind of been like he really has been like my number one supporter since day one. And he's seen like every stage of this career. And so is my mom, but my dad more so because he's been like my trainer, my chef. He's been my Uber driver. He's been everything. So I think seeing the dad and daughter duos has been really awesome. But yeah, there's so many little moments in between like just outside the ring, it's really awesome. So yeah, it is everything I've wanted and more. And like sometimes like I really can't believe that I'm doing it. Like every weekend where I was like, I think it was like my fourth or fifth match, and I was like, man, I'm traveling and I get to go wrestle this weekend. Like it's such an awesome feeling. And I'm actually flying out tomorrow morning to San Antonio for a show this Saturday. And I'm like, man, I get to wrestle and like I get to like call myself wrestler because before it was always people would ask me like, oh, what's your job? And I'm like, well, I'm training to be a pro wrestler. And now the coolest part is I get to say I am a pro wrestler. So it's a really good feeling and it's something I've worked very hard to say. So yeah, it's everything I've wanted and more.
No, I love that. And let's kind of shout it out to your parents because if no one else from the Izzy Moreno world listens to this, it'll probably be your parents. So let's talk about just what they think about, because you took a long pathway to it. You put in the work and they have to be proud of you. So I guess talk a little bit about them and how they feel about where you're at now.
Oh man, I know like they always tell me that they are proud of me, but like I don't think I'll understand from their point of view. But they are, and they've been so supportive because like they introduced it to me pro wrestling, and so we've shared a lot of memories just going to shows. Like I think a lot of like my childhood memories was with pro wrestling and my parents, which I'm not mad at all. And so I will always be like, oh, you remember that one time like this happened at that show, or remember when we went to this show? And it's always like so cool to look back on those memories. And I'm like, man, pro wrestling literally was a part of it. Like that's the common denominator. And so like I said, like my dad, he's just been like very supportive. And so has my mom, but like he's just been I think he knew how much I wanted this. So he was like, I'm gonna like really support her. And so like literally he kind of was he was like my first trainer basically. He films all my videos for me. He's my camera guy. He's helped me so much in general, and so is my mom. Like my mom has given, like I've had a lot of like personal talk. So yeah, like both my parents have been extremely supportive, and I couldn't have done any of this without them, especially the driving part because they've driven me to most of my shows.
Yeah, that's important too. A couple more questions, then I'll let you go. But I guess we've talked about so much of the amazing parts, but any job, anything that you do comes with things that aren't so great too. So anything that, now that you're in it, you realize, oh, that's not great, whether it's the constant travel or something else. Talk about maybe the less than amazing parts of it.
Yeah, I said like before, like, oh, I never get tired of it. Honestly, it is the travel. I like personally, like, I'm not that big of a fan of traveling. And I say that like very lightly because I don't mind going to different places. Like I love like going to new places. Like I love that. Like I want to say, I think it was like early November. I had a convention in New York, and so we came early, and we went. And my uncle lives there, so we went to the city and we explored and we hit up some spots that I've always wanted to see. So I was just like I love that, and then like it was really cool because so, like basically we got to explore. And the next day I had my convention. It was like a fun weekend. But I hate the airport part, and I hate the kind of the hotels because I try to sleep in my bed, but I know that can't happen all the time. But I have been getting very used to it, and I've been doing good. So, there's been weekends, like I said, I've traveled for like 3 weeks straight, and I know there's a lot of people, like a lot of pro wrestlers who are like, I haven't been a month, and I applaud those people, but I think for me, I'm like, what? I'm like, there's so much travel, and I knew it was gonna be a lot of traveling, but it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to go on a plane tomorrow. It's always the plane, and also Orlando airport sucks. Like literally, the Orlando airport's the worst airport. So I honestly think it all stems from the Orlando airport. So that's what we're gonna blame. That's what I hate, the Orlando airport.
There you go. Yeah, I've been to the Orlando airport several times myself. I don't remember being terrible, but I feel like if you got to be there all the time, maybe it's not so great. You've spent so much time.
Oh, it's horrendous.
You spent so much time kind of developing your who you are, and I just wonder, to somebody else listening to this, maybe they're a young person, or maybe they're even older than you are now, and it's something that they're interested in. Talk a little bit about the advice that you have for others that they want to get into the sport.
Yeah, I know this is going to be really corny. I know I'm going to pull out my little phrase, but honestly, be your biggest fan. Like that's my biggest piece of advice. And I know like this is going to sound like marketing and like I'm just trying to promote myself, but honestly, like at the end of the day, you really have to believe in yourself, because you will always have yourself. If nobody has your back, you're always going to have yourself. And I've learned that over the years, because I have faced a lot of backlash. I have been canceled, as the kids say on social media. And, at the end of the day, like I had my parents, even when they were struggling with, me being canceled, and, I didn't want to rely on them so much. I always had myself, and I always, said, you know what, I believe in myself, and I believe I'm going to get through this. And I believe that I'm going to see the light at the end of the tunnel eventually. But yeah, honestly, be your biggest fan. I think that's something I've done so many times, and it's helped me overcome a lot of obstacles in life. So yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice, is be your biggest fan.
Yeah, I think that it is your tagline, but I think it makes a lot of sense. So I like it. Now, how can people, they listen to this, they don't already know about you, or, they know a lot about Izzy. Talk about how people can find you on social media, how they can find your matches. Just, this is your time to shout yourself out.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Or on Instagram and Twitter, it's IZZYMANIA, ITSIZZYMANIA. And then on TikTok, it's just IZZYMANIA, IZZYMANIA. You can shop my brand new Izzy Moreno homage t-shirt on homage.com. And you can also shop my other t-shirt with prowrestlingtees.com. And then where you can find my matches, I know a couple of them have been posted to YouTube. And then if you want, you can get Title Match Network, which is an amazing streaming platform. It's titlematchnetwork.com. They basically stream a bunch of independent wrestling shows, like a couple of my matches. And so not only will you get to see my matches, you get to see everybody else's incredible matches. So yeah, you can catch them, titlematchnetwork.com. And yeah, I think that's it for where you can find me.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
So that was Izzy Moreno. What an amazing story. The story is just beginning with Izzy, for sure. She's got such a bright future ahead. So happy she decided to join me and share her story. I urge you to go check her out. IZZYMANIA, pretty much everywhere. The links will be in the show notes. Check out her, her social media. Follow along with her. Check out those matches. Should you be into that sort of thing? There's several on YouTube. I've looked at those myself. She talked about how that platform, I believe it's Fight. Go check that out too. But yeah, pleasure to speak with Izzy. I know there's huge things ahead. I think that this is a podcast that in a few years from now we're gonna be like, she's a way bigger deal. Very happy she decided to join me. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, Really happy to have you. Go check out some of the other guests. I've had one other wrestler on, but I've had so many other amazing people on. Nostalgic people from my childhood, true crime, people with amazing, interesting jobs, just so many people. So go follow along so you don't miss any of those episodes. Go check out that back catalog. Follow along on Instagram, Not Enough Podcast. Follow along on Facebook, Not Enough Jackson Huff, jacksonhuff.com. Lots of places there. Go leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Always appreciate that. Leave a written review on Apple. Even more amazing. But if you do nothing else, catch us next week. Take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.